Festival Booster 2024 might just be the best festival booster we have ever received, so I waited a little before getting this set review out because I wanted to see how the cards did in the most recent tournaments. With that said, let's go over all the new cards and see how these cards can be utilized in different decks. So the first card we'll be looking at is Spiritual King of Bright Sky, Merizemblia. Of course, this has the usual Overtrigger text that when revealed, remove this card, draw a card, and choose a unit to get 100 million. And the additional effect when revealed on a drive check reads, draw up to 1 card for every 2 of your opponent's open circle in total of their rearguard circle and guardian circle. Retire all of your opponent's rearguards and guardians. The way I look at this card is that you always get half the skill, but you don't get to pick which one. If your opponent has a full board, then great, you get to retire them all, but you don't draw any additional cards. On the other hand, if they don't have any cards on the board and they didn't guard, the wiping effect is not doing anything, but at least that's 3 additional cards. Of course, those are extreme cases, and after the dust settles, the board will at least be clean. I think a lot of decks in the meta have the ability to rebuild even after all the rearguards are retired, so I don't think a board wipe should be the reason you're running this card. And if you're looking for card draw, I won't recommend this either, since you aren't guaranteed to draw. And well, this is an Overtrigger after all. Your deck should have other ways to gain card advantage. The skill that I think people are overlooking is that you wipe their guardians. So unless they have a sentinel effect, your Vanguard attack will be going through, and you get to put the 100 million on another unit. That's what I think makes this card powerful. You made your opponent commit to guarding the Vanguard swing, so that's already a lot of cards out of their hand, which makes the extra 100 million on another card that much more devastating. The next Overtrigger is Spiritual King of Night Sky, Nixozelia. The additional effect reads, choose up to 1 card from your damage zone, put it into hand, choose up to 1 unit card from your hand, call it to rearguard circle, and it gets power plus 10k until end of turn. A lot of standard decks, and I mean a lot, have Vanguard effects that restand the rearguards, and this card makes the attack patterns very awkward. I don't think you want to run this in those decks just to get a beefy booster, right? But this is a 5th heal for your deck. I think decks that might need a couple of turns to set up or wanting to play the long game can try this one out. Also, now you have to pay more attention to what you CB in your damage zone if you're running this OT, as those can be potentially added to your hand, whether that be a PG, a personal ride, or just a piece for your next turn. The sad thing about these cards is that you don't consider them in Braincade or Dragon Empire decks unless you're Varka, since the nation-specific OTs are just so powerful. The card advantage you get from those, or the potential to just win the game on the spot, makes those cards in my opinion must-runs. And it sucks that these designs can only be utilized in the 4 remaining nations. Let's now talk about a new Regalis piece, Radiance Caliburn. The effect is very simple, you perform one of the following. Draw 2 cards, or put this card into soul and countercharge 1. So I think what makes this card good is the countercharge 1. It gives decks that are counterblast heavy an additional way to CC. Something like Varga, where you want multiple CBs a turn to reach its full potential, can make good use of this. The versatility is also important, because you don't want this card to ever be dead, and drawing 2 cards might make all the difference. With that said, I don't think the Pot of Greed effect is actually as good as it sounds. Let's compare it to some of the other staple Regalis pieces we have. Radius Grado is basically a draw 1 and plus 10k to the front row. Is the extra card worth giving up the Personal Right buff? With how easy it is to build a board and search for cards in the standard format, I think having the power gain and securing your Personal Right is just that much more important, especially with how relevant restanding is. Let's also compare it to Bracing Angel Ladder. Is that one extra card more valuable than pretty much shutting off Shiranui for a turn? See, that's my problem with Caliburn. While yes, the effect is decent, but I just see myself leaning towards the other Regalis pieces more. And we got another card that shares the name Elementaria Sanctitude. So basically, you only get to choose one of the 2 to run in the deck. What this card allows is for Grade 4 decks to have an Elementaria Sanctitude. This card is still similar to the previous one, as your main reason in this format for running this card is to guard against stride decks without discarding a card. Unless you're playing a Grade 4 deck, I would still recommend the Old Sanctitude, as the decks it guards against just appears more often in the meta. So we also got a new cycle of cards for every nation. Let's call them the Dragon Cycle for now. They all have the same second effect of auto on rearguard circle or drop. When your other card is discarded from hand during your turn, cost Energy Blast 3 and remove this card. Choose one of the discarded cards and put it into hand. I think these cards are great for stride decks. You have so many targets that you want to get back, like your Stride Fodders, Energy Cyclers, and much more, that taking in a couple of these cards just boosts your consistency and makes sure that you get your pieces on time. The first effects, on the other hand, are all decent but not that amazing. They all get plus 2k an additional effect until end of turn when placed on rearguard circle and when your Vanguard's grade is less than your opponent's Vanguard grade. The Dragon Empire one gets another 3k for a total of plus 5k. I think there are much better 13k boosters in the pool right now that you wouldn't be considering this. The Darkseid's one Soul Charges 1, probably not the reason you'll be playing this card, as if you're playing a deck that is relying on the soul, there are better cards that can fuel it. The Braincade one Energy Charges 1, which should get better over time as more decks in the future will probably utilize the energy more. The Cater one gets to look at the top card of the deck and either leave it there or put it on the bottom, which is a pretty decent skill that can be used in a lot of decks that can call units before the Vanguard swing. The Stoicheia one discards up to 1 card from the top of the deck, which can fuel your drop with orders or units depending on what you're playing. The lyrical one soul charges 1 or energy charges 1 if you played an order this turn. I guess having the option's nice, but making playing an order necessary limits the amount of play this would get. All these effects are pretty tame, but these are honestly just added bonuses for stride decks. Let's go over probably the most meta impacting cards, the Dual Nation cards. These can be played in both the nations that are listed on the card. Starting with the Dragon Empire and Dark States 1, Soaring Freedom, Ford, and Revoltus. Auto when this unit is placed on Rigor Circle from hand other than during the battle phase, Soul Charge 1, and this unit gets power plus 5k until end of turn. Then, cost CB1 and perform one of the following. Choose one of your opponent's grade 2 or greater rear guards and retire it. Or choose a grade 2 or less card from your soul and call it to Rigor Circle. It turns out that this card is just a staple now in Shiranui. The Soul Charge 1 is actually relevant since all the multi-attackers require Soul Blast. And just having a card that can repeatedly call a Shenri is nuts. That is a free extra draw every turn. And having the option of also retiring unit is just a cherry on top. This card also seems decent in Chrono Jet. Being able to access your soul and call something like an Upstream Dragon is a great boost in consistency for the deck. And also just giving an optional generic retire effect with a soul charge on the same card to Dark States sounds pretty good. I can see a lot more decks playing this card purely because of how versatile it is. It can soul charge, call unit, or retire something. A lot of decks have access to these skills, but not all of them at once. So having this card gives decks more options and combos. Moving on, we have the Dark States and Brentgate unit, Dark Bond, Abyss, Surga, and Dark Age. Auto when this unit is placed on Rigor Circle from hand other than during the battle phase, look at the same number of cards from the top of your deck as the number of set orders in your order zone plus 1. Choose a card from among them, put it into soul, and if you looked at 2 or more cards, shuffle the deck. Cost CB1 and perform one of the following. Choose a grade 2 or greater unit card from your soul and put it into hand. Or choose a set order from your soul and put it into hand. So we just saw the last one and how good of a card that is, and then we have this. Well, okay, to be fair, there are a couple of use cases for this card. This card is very good in Avant-Garde. We get to get back the strategy orders that we put into soul and not only rely on Alec Dargante. You should be able to look at a decent number of cards if you put this card in Brentgate decks. But that's the thing, shouldn't this card also be built for Dark States? This is pretty much always a shove a card into soul for Dark States. I can't think of a deck at the moment in the nation that would and could include set orders. So it really comes down to how important is fetching a unit out of the soul. And for most Dark States deck, I think they all have their gimmicks and would not be relying on this. I don't think this card will see much play, but maybe this will change in the future. Next up is the Brentgate and Cater Sanctuary Dual Nation card, Cavalry Machine Impetuous Streak, Waltrosa, and Lyell. Auto when this unit is placed on Rigor Circle from hand other than during the battle phase, choose up to 1 normal unit without Sentinel or up to 1 order card from your drop, and put it on the bottom of the deck. Cost CB1, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 card from among them, and perform one of the following. If the revealed card is an order card without Regalis piece, put it into hand and shuffle the deck. If the revealed card has grade less than or equal to your Vanguard, call it to Rigor Circle and shuffle the deck. This card is so generic that I can see it being included in a lot of decks. In Cater decks, this just helps you find your orders, which makes finding more units that much easier. Or I guess you can just look for Seragons and boost your consistency that way as well. This also seems very good in decks that need a lot of pieces or just cards that you must see in the early game. In decks like Ava for example, where you absolutely need to find your orders and monsters before your grade 3 turn, you can include this as an insurance policy. And with the amount of top deck searches for the deck now, it's actually very difficult to whiff the cards you need. And then there's the Cater and Stoichea unit, Azure Sky White Scales, Asponia, and Sapphira. Auto when this unit is placed on Rigor Circle from hand other than during the battle phase, look at the top card of your deck, and put it on the top of the deck or discard it. Cost CB1 and perform one of the following. Choose a normal order from your drop and put it into your hand. Or choose a grade 2 or greater card from your drop and call it to Rigor Circle. This card reads pretty insane. First, you get access to top deck manipulation in Stoichea. It can also be more fuel for your drop for decks like Zorga. Getting a normal order back may also be significant in Cater Pile decks. Also for Stoichea, getting access to Mythiarch Habitat every turn sounds really good. Maybe in the future there will be more decks that can utilize this part of the skill. We have the last of the Dual Nation cards, the one for Stoichea and Dragon Empire, Flameleaf, Chaotic Dance, Hakusei, and Remred. Auto when this unit is placed on Rigor Circle from hand other than during the battle phase, you may call Plant Token to Rigor Circle. Cost CB1 and perform one of the following. You get all of your rearguards that were placed by your card's ability this turn get power plus 5k until end of turn. Or choose one of your vanguards and it gets power plus 5k until end of turn. If you have 4 or more units, it gets power plus 10k instead of the 5k. Giving plus 5k to all rearguards placed by card's ability for the turn is insane. You have decks like Roroa that generate so many tokens. Each column is now an additional personal right worth of power. You also have Varga that calls Blaze Ember Dragon and Boulder Axe out for early power swings. The second skill is also incredible for so many Dragon Empire decks. Decks like Draconic Overlord, Varga again, pretty much any deck that can restand a Vanguard would want this, as every single Vanguard swing will probably be an additional 10k. That is just asking so much more shield value out of your opponent. The free token that this card generates is just a great bonus, as it being in the back row center rearguard circle means that you are swinging with an 18k magic number Vanguard. I think what makes all these cards really good is that you have just so many options. The first part of the skill, although it has to be called from hand and not during the battle phase, having a free on-place effect that can turn into much more with just a counterblast is so powerful. Feel free to share in the comments below how different decks can include these. And then we finally arrive at the last few cards of the set. We have the order pairs. So every nation got a unit that lets you search the deck for a specific order for the cost of a Soul Blast and puts it straight into the order zone. For Dragon Empire, Dark States, and Lyrical Monasterio, the unit also has the effect that when chosen by the effect of a set order, then it gets power plus 5k for the turn. So for the set orders of these three nations, the effect is auto from order zone. At the beginning of your battle phase, choose one of your back row rearguards and it gets boost until end of turn. These cards are okay. For decks that have a lot of pieces that are great too, I guess this is fine, but I just don't see decks dedicating slots to have a 10 or 15k booster. I think these are fine Tekken cards as a 1-1 line, but running more just seems excessive and doesn't contribute to your overall game plan. And then the units of the remaining three nations, Brentgate, Cater, and Stoicheia, has the effect that when placed on Guardian Circle from Rearguard Circle by the ability of the set order it searches, it gets shield plus 5k until end of battle. So the set order of these nations reads, auto from order zone, once per turn, when your unit is attacked, choose one of your rearguards not being attacked, move it to Guardian Circle, and it gets continuous when this unit will be retired from Guardian Circle, bind it instead of retiring it until end of that battle. A combo that has been appearing a lot in the Japanese metagame is using these cards for Cater and triggering Lael Immorta's skill. This interaction basically allows you to call down triggers in the early game and move them to the Guardian Circle via the set order skill to guard. Then we can put them back into the deck with Immorta's skill when placed on Guardian Circle. This not only works well in Immorta decks, but also Rezile, which is also a faded one. And we can also use it in other decks like Luard just to keep shuffling their triggers back. This allows Cater decks to play the long game and stay at low damage counts by constantly guarding. I think these cards are alright in Stoicheia and Brentgate, as they also reward you for playing more aggressively in the early game. But there isn't a combo like the one for Cater, at least for now. So those are all the new cards from the Festival Booster. And I gotta say, I'm very impressed by the overall card quality compared to the previous years. I think a lot of cards will see play, and that this is a set worth picking up just for the potential these cards have. What do you guys think about Festival Booster 2024? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you all next time.